Part 125. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1248. The lawyer suggested adopting a guilty plea and striving for a lighter sentence, but Ge Feng firmly disagreed and demanded a not guilty plea. The outcome of the trial is obvious. There are too many unfavorable evidences and very few strong ones. Because of this, Ge Feng's subsequent appeals were all rejected. If Mu Zi wants to appeal for Ge Feng, he must find a breakthrough. Because of the phone call before coming here, the lawyer dug up the case materials half a year ago, including the complete court records, as well as all the written materials and photos at that time. There are almost no loopholes to be found in this case. The lawyer mentioned the murder case half a year ago, and said to Mu Zi, the body was found in his trunk. The murder weapon was an old-fashioned razor. The first scene was the basement of the villa where Ge Feng lived, where there was a storage room, and the hair tissue of the deceased was found in it. Where was Ge Feng? Mu Zi asked. The lawyer's face showed helplessness. He said he was sleeping at home, and his bedroom was on the southeast corner of the second floor. Mu Zi frowned. He's the only one at home. Ge was just pregnant at the time, and she had a lot of reactions during her pregnancy. She went back to her mother's house for a few days, and the servant happened to ask for leave. The lawyer sighed. The police speculated that he invited netizens to come to the house at night while his wife was not at home. It may be that there was a conflict during the intentional sexual assault, and I improvised to kill the other party, put it in the trunk, and attempted to transfer the body for destruction the next morning. Mu Zi said, but he still insisted on pleading not guilty. Maybe he was indeed framed. Of course, everything is possible in this world. Perhaps a mysterious person intercepted Mr. Ge Feng's chat records, knowing that the deceased came to the appointment, and then avoided the surveillance cameras on the main road, and did not touch the alarm of the villa. Sneak in smoothly, wait until the deceased arrives at the villa, kill him, and then leave without anyone noticing. After the lawyer finished speaking, he smiled helplessly, but this still doesn't explain why Mr. Ge Feng's fingerprints are on the deceased's ring. Mu Zi looked down at the documents and photos in her hand, and said in a low voice, so, you also think he killed someone? Yes, the lawyer nodded. Judging from the evidence, the possibility of his innocence is very slim. Mu Zi felt heavy in her heart. This case is tricky. After seeing the lawyer and getting the documents, Mu Zi went to see Ge Feng in the prison. It is also the first day to make an appointment application, and it is a race against time. Ge Feng was very shocked when he saw Mu Zi. He opened his mouth but didn't make a sound, but finally there was some emotion in his dull eyes. I know you. Ge Feng fixedly looked at Mu Zi's face, and recognized it in surprise. I've seen your news, and you have never failed. Because the price of failure will be very heavy, so I try to avoid it, Mu Zi replied lightly. She sat down opposite him, took out a stack of documents, and asked the other party according to the usual procedure, from now on, I will act as your attorney. Please tell me carefully what happened on the day of the crime. But Ge Feng didn't seem to hear it. He still stared at Mu Zi for a moment, with a cautious tone in his anxiety. Will you help me? Do you believe that I am innocent? Mr. Ge, I don't know you. Mu Zi raised her head and looked at him calmly. I don't know what kind of person you are, but I will do my best to protect your rights. Otherwise, I don't need to waste time here. Hearing this, Ge Feng pursed his lips, but said nothing. Now, can we start? Mu Zi asked him. Please describe the incident in detail. Ge Feng lowered his head and said in a low voice, I don't know. I fell asleep, got up the next day and drove to the company, was stopped by the police, and then, what you know happened. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1249. Ge Feng said that he fell asleep when the crime happened and knew nothing about it. Such an answer is of no use to Mu Zi. What time did you go to bed? Mu Zi asked. Ge Feng said, 9 o'clock, or around 9:30, I don't remember exactly. I drank some wine at that time and suddenly felt very sleepy, so I went to bed early. Are you drinking alone at home? I have a habit of drinking half a glass of whiskey every night. Mu Zi frowned and said, let's make a hypothesis now, assuming that there is a person who has read your chat records and hid in your house without you noticing. This person understands your habits and knows your habits. Can drink, so put sleeping pills in the wine, wait for you to go to the second floor to rest, he commits a murder in the basement storage room, finds your car keys, puts the body in your trunk, and finally takes advantage of the chaos during the day leave. Mu Zi paused for a moment, then asked Ge Feng, if there is such a person, who do you think it would be? Ge Feng smiled wryly, I don't know. Think about it again. Mu Zi frowned, her tone revealing a stern tone. If there is such a person. Ge Feng shook his head with a face full of self-deprecation, crack my chat software, know the password of my home's electronic lock, know that I have a drinking habit, and find my car keys, carefully plan all this, kill a person, just to send me to prison, so it must be someone who is close to me and hates me very much. Ge Feng looked up at the ceiling and let out a long breath, I don't know, I really don't know. Mu Zi looked at Ge Feng silently. After leaving the prison, Mu Zi went directly to the airport. This time I came to Xinjiang just to get a preliminary understanding of the situation, and I didn't want to stay for a long time, but now it seems that the situation is not optimistic. Mu Zi counted the time in her heart. She needs help. 2 days later, Mu Zi moved into her villa in Xinjiang with her youngest daughter Jiao and a group of bodyguards and servants. The leisure area on the first floor of the villa was temporarily transformed into a conference room, with a rectangular projection screen hanging in the middle, and as Mu Zi tapped on the computer, photos were displayed in front of people's eyes. The people on the soft seat on the sofa included Chu Mingjun and 2 lawyers from Mingjun law firm, and Zhang Ci was also there. This is the deceased, named He Ya, aged 22, a college student. She entered the Fengtinjiayuan community at 10 p.m. on the night of the incident, and her body was found in Ge Feng's rear compartment at 8 a.m. the next morning. Photos of the deceased He Ya were displayed on the projection screen, as well as the tragic situation after death. The snow-white limbs were twisted and curled up in the carriage, and the carriage was full of blood, which made the red even redder and the white even whiter. Since He Ya can enter the community, is it possible that someone who followed her entered the community, killed her, and then planted Ge Feng on it? Chu Mingjun asked a question. The security guards in Fengtinjiayuan only block incoming vehicles, but judging from the monitoring, no one followed He Ya at that time, Mu Zi said, and every household in the villa area has installed an electronic code lock, and you can press the wrong code 3 times. The above, or forcibly breaking the electronic lock, will immediately trigger the alarm. Chu Mingjun asked again, can you find the surveillance video at the entrance of the villa? The monitoring coverage rate of Fengtinjiayuan is not 100%. Many residents pay attention to privacy, so the property only installs monitoring electronic eyes on the driveway. Mu Zi lightly tapped the keyboard, and another woman's photo appeared on the projection screen. Compared with He Ya just now, this woman showed the elegant temperament of a rich and famous lady, the corners of her mouth were slightly upturned, and her smile was reserved and gentle. This is Ge Feng's wife, Li Shiyu, Mu Zi introduced, and one of the shareholders of Pinja Jewelry Company. Is it possible that it's her? Chu Mingjun couldn't help but said, after knowing that my husband is having an affair, I will hold a grudge, kill the mistress and put the blame on my husband, and at the same time get the part of the husband's equity, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1250. I said, Li Xiu was 2 months pregnant at the time, and she had a lot of reactions during the pregnancy, so she went back to live at her natal home. The police checked her alibi and found that she was indeed at her natal home. She vomited every day and never went out. Her parents and servants in her family can testify to this. Another possibility was rejected, and everyone's expressions became more and more unhappy. I switched to the next photo, which was Ge Feng's registration photo in prison. This is our client, Ge Feng, 33 years old. He said he is innocent. Not only did he not kill He Ya, but he has never met He Ya. A lawyer brought by Chu Mingjun couldn't help but said, he has been chatting with this woman on and off for more than a year, has he never thought of meeting her? I shook his head lightly. Ge Feng said that women are very troublesome. Once they get involved in real life, they will get entangled and it's hard to get rid of them, so he only pursues excitement online, and never brings it into real life. Then why did he send a message to He Ya, asking her to come to our house at night? He said he didn't send that message himself. Everyone looked at each other, seeing the disbelief in each other's eyes. Chu Mingjun said with a complicated expression, so, the real murderer can not only sneak into the villa without anyone noticing, but also has a certain level of hacking skills. Every possibility needs to be taken into consideration. I said, my idea is it possible that Ge Feng revealed the password of his house to a friend, and also talked about He Ya with him? The other party sneaked into Ge Feng's home, killed He Ya, and then planted it on Ge Feng. As for the motive for the crime, I haven't thought of it yet. Zhang Ci disagreed. The risk of doing this is too great. How could his friend know about his wife's return to her mother's house and the servant's leave? If he had inquired specifically, then Ge Feng couldn't have been ignorant. And what a ring, why does it have Ge Feng's fingerprints? Doesn't I know that her assumption is too forced? It's just that she really can't figure out what happened at Ge Feng's house on the night of the crime. When I looked distressed, Chu Mingjun whispered to Zhang Ci, cousin, do you think Ge Feng has multiple personalities? Look, all the evidence in this case points to him. There was a case abroad before. The same is true. The prisoner refused to admit that he had killed someone, and after investigation, it was so scary. It was multiple personalities. In the end, he was found not guilty, but he was sent to a mental hospital, which is worse than being in prison. Zhang Ci picked up a stack of documents on the low table, and slapped Chu Mingjun hard on the head. Do you think multiple personalities are Chinese cabbage? Are they all over the street? Ouch, Chu Mingjun hugged his head and grinned, whether it's true or not, I'm just expanding our thinking for our case. Then he complained, sister, we have a meeting of lawyers, why are you a policeman sneaking in? My name is Zhang Ci. I said, Zhang Ci injured her right arm during the police operation the day before, and she is currently on vacation, so I asked her to come over and help. Zhang Ci's right arm was tied thickly, and a white bandage went around his neck, hanging below his chest. I distributed the prepared materials to everyone. First of all, we need to appeal to the Supreme Court as soon as possible. Although the chain of evidence is complete, it is precisely because it is too sufficient and the suspicion is too obvious, so the police officer in charge of the case did not conduct a detailed investigation on people other than Ge Feng. This point can be our breakthrough. Xiaoming, you are in charge of the appeal. Ge Feng's wife is an important candidate. Even if she can't provide clues, it's best to try to get her to testify for Ge Feng in court. I will talk to her in person. Xiao Chen, Xiao Zheng, I need you to check carefully whether He Ya had close contacts with other men before the accident, especially the men in the chat group. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1251. Where's my sister? Chu Mingjun asked. I looked at Zhang Ci. Zhang Ci is on vacation now, so he can help us find the police officer who was in charge of the case at the time, and re-understand the situation, especially which part of the police has not been investigated. Speaking of this, I pursed her lips helplessly, and continued, if there is a record of bad law enforcement, or a lazy and careless work attitude, it will be more beneficial to us. Hey, that's too much. The corners of Zhang Ci's mouth curled up slightly, with a half smile. The people in our police station are all elites, okay. We definitely don't accept slackers who are lazy and rough. I sighed, forget it if you don't have one. Chu Mingjun asked again, how much time do we have for investigation? Better as soon as possible. I lowered her eyes and glanced at the time displayed on the computer, because our client will be executed in 17 days. What? Chu Mingjun jumped up in shock. The other two lawyers of the law firm also looked shocked. I repeated again, we still have 17 days. But, Chu Mingjun was full of confusion, it will take 7 working days to get the result just for the appeal. Yes, so the appeal process must be carried out as soon as possible, and during the waiting period, we must hurry up and investigate all clues that can be investigated. I looked at them, and said in a deep voice, after 17 days, you may become famous in one battle, or you may work for nothing, but these are actually not the most important thing. The most important thing is that Ge Feng's life may be only the last 17 days are left. Everyone looked at each other, silent. Ge Feng's life is counting down, success or failure is in the hands of each of them. After I assigned the task, everyone dispersed to work. Zhang Ci didn't rush to leave and stayed. After waking up, Jiao wet the mat. She didn't cry, she twisted and groaned unwillingly in the crib. I picked up the child and softly coaxed her. The nanny helped to scrub the little butt, and changed the clean changing mat again. Zhang Ci watched from the side with envy in his eyes. It's so cute, but it's a pity I got hurt, otherwise I really want to hug her. Zhang Ci stretched out her left hand, and poked her delicate round face with her fingers. Be my goddaughter. I like it so much, you can give birth to one yourself in the future. I smiled. No, Zhang Ci rebuffed straight away, the food is the fragrance of other people's family, and the baby is the good of other people's family. I have no patience to give birth to a child and serve and educate. I smiled, picked up her daughter to tease her a few times, and put her back in the crib. Does your injury matter? I turned around, her eyes fell on Zhang Ci's injured forearm. Since your superiors have given you sick leave, you should take a good rest. Don't try to go back early, it hurts your bones. If you don't raise it well, it will be very troublesome in the future. Come on, don't you just want to grab me to work for you again? Zhang Ci smiled, it's fresh, it's my first time working for a lawyer. What kind of work is asking you a few words? I raised the corners of her lips and said with a smile, you can stay with me for a few days, and help me look after the children by the way. All right, save the trouble of running back and forth. Zhang Ci happily agreed, and finally frowned, and said, but I have to go to the hospital first to get some medicine. I nodded, well, I'll send someone to pick you up when the time comes. Zhang Ci's eyes lit up when he heard the words, can you send someone to the hospital? Help me get the medicine. I laughed at her, you will never die of laziness. It's not that I'm lazy, it's that I've met a deadly enemy, Zhang Ci said. I was slightly stunned, and looked at Zhang Ci suspiciously, who is it? Zhang Ci said bitterly, rival in love. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1252. I was in a daze, recovered after a while, and burst out laughing. Rival in love? Ha 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 ha. The only time in Jiang Xi's life that he fell in love with someone was when he was 16 years old, when his hormones were in full swing, and he fell in love with his neighbor's big brother. But things are unpredictable. Just as she was about to confess to the other party, she accidentally witnessed her sweetheart confessing to another boy. Because of this incident, Jiang Xi was hit hard, and she no longer dared to like handsome men. But the reality is often cruel, and she can't like ugly ones. Muzi couldn't stop laughing. She clutched her stomach and collapsed on the sofa. Rival in love, ha 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 ha. It's enough to laugh for a while, aren't you endless? Jiang Xi was angry. Thinking back on what happened to me, I felt overwhelmed, and complained depressingly, why did this guy go back to China to become a doctor? What a pity. That's right, Muzi smiled. It's been so many years, you can still recognize each other, that's amazing. Can I be a policeman with a bad memory? Jiang Xi snorted. I remember the identity information and photos of the most wanted criminals every year. Muzi said, I hope every policeman has the same good memory as you. Don't ask about the case half a year ago, I don't remember anything. The topic went around, and it returned to the case. Jiang Xi was silent for a moment, and asked, do you really believe that guy? If it were anyone, I'm afraid they wouldn't believe Ge Feng, would they? Playing sex chat with a woman on the internet, sending explicit messages, and then the woman's body slept in his trunk. There was hair of the deceased at home, his fingerprints were collected on her body, and there were 2 other people in the phone. There are a lot of dark and corrupt chat records between them. All in all, disgusting and irrefutable. I believe he didn't do it, Muzi replied. Jiang Xi frowned suspiciously. Why? Just because you trust Yu Yang. Muzi shook her head lightly, and said, at first glance, this case seems to be closely linked and the chain of evidence is perfectly connected, but in fact, there are many points that cannot withstand scrutiny. If Ge Feng really wanted to meet a female netizen, wouldn't it be more convenient to make an appointment at a hotel? Why make an appointment to a home that is easy to leave traces? Even if he was impulsive and didn't think carefully, why didn't he clean up the scene after killing He Ya, and didn't dispose of the body properly, but instead left the car covered in blood? You know, Ge Feng left the house at 8 o'clock the next morning, that is to say, nearly 10 hours had passed since the incident. 10 hours ago, he was not in a hurry to dispose of the corpse, but after 10 hours, he completely regained his composure. How to dispose of the corpse in such a rough way? Even if the corpse was covered with a layer of plastic bags first, he would not be spotted by the security guards when he left the community. Jiang Xi pondered for a moment, then nodded slightly. You are right, and there is another thing that makes me feel particularly strange, that is, the fingerprints on the ring. How could such a small object stick to the fingerprints? The murderer would carefully wipe off the murder weapon. How could he miss the fingerprints on the ring? Besides, why should he touch other people's rings when he has nothing to do? In this case, if you look at the evidence alone, you will feel that it is taken for granted that all the evidence is in line with the reasoning of the criminal's behavior. But if you really reason into it, you will feel a strong sense of disobedience. You know, I have an idea. Muzi gently put the photo of the deceased's ring in front of Jiang Xi. Is it possible that Black Rose is looking for a scapegoat for herself? Jiang Xi was slightly startled. Black Rose? Why Ge Feng was chosen, I can't guess, but this ring should be a clue left by Black Rose deliberately, Musa said in a low voice. Black Rose wanted He Ya to be the 3rd victim, but didn't, knowing that the mask of the 2nd victim was stolen by the informant. The police treated He Ya's case as an ordinary murder case by mistake. Good night ZZZ. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, Your Wife is Born Again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1254. If it wasn't for the fact that the gemstone was stolen, the ring on He-Yu's hand would definitely attract the attention of the police, and then contact the second victim of the Black Rose case. The same throat cut, the same woman, the same nude, and the same ring. As the murderer, Ge Feng will bring the Black Rose case to an end. But there is still something puzzling here. If your hypothesis is true, why doesn't Black Rose just do it more directly? Let He-Ya die in the bathtub, sprinkle rose petals, isn't it more like it? Why do you want to stuff it into the trunk? Zhang Ci couldn't help asking. That's right. Mu Zi sighed slightly, I can't figure out this point either. Although He-Ya's death method was also cutthroat, it is not full of ritual and beauty like the previous two. He-Ya's death was miserable. There must be some reason we don't know. Mu Zi murmured. The next day, Mu Zi personally visited Li's house and met Ge Feng's wife, Li Shiyu. Li Shiyu herself is more charming than the photos. She is 8 months pregnant and will give birth in less than a month. She walks slowly and speaks softly, giving people the impression of a gentle and meticulous woman. The servant brought tea and snacks, and the two sat down in the living room. Mu Zi looked around at the decoration. The Li family should be the home of the rich and powerful. The founder of Pinja Jewelry Company is Li Shiyu's father. Ge Feng works under her father's hands and is highly valued. Her father appreciates Ge Feng's talent, promotes him to be the general manager, and tries his best to match him and Li Shiyu. Ge Feng knew the elegant meaning after hearing the strings, and immediately pursued Li Shiyu. However, Li Shiyu always obeyed her parents' request. She accepted Ge Feng, the two fell in love for more than a year, and got engaged and married smoothly. Although everyone didn't say anything in person, the employees of Pinja Jewelry Company secretly said that Ge Feng had become the son-in-law. Mu Zi greeted each other. Mrs. Li, I heard that you and Mr. Ge have been in a stable relationship. Do you think you understand him? I'm not sure. Li Shiyu stroked her belly and forced a smile. I've known him for 7 years and been married for 4 years, and I always thought he was considerate, caring, motivated, and eager to learn, but who knew, he would be in that kind of chat group. Speaking of this, probably feeling embarrassed, Li Shiyu lowered her eyes and turned her face away. Mu Zi asked, mind your husband having an affair? Li Shiyu smiled wryly, is there any woman who doesn't mind? According to what he said, he and the other party just kept in touch with each other on the internet, and there was no further development. Mu Zi asked her again, do you think your husband will kill someone? Li Shiyu was silent for a while, then shook her head lightly. He has come to today step by step, and he will not easily do things that destroy his future. Mrs. Li, can you say that on the witness stand? Mu Zi asked. Li Shiyu frowned slightly, and replied in a low voice, I don't know, I didn't think he was, but those chat records. She bit her lower lip, showing resistance to the incident. Mu Zi thought for a while, and said, let me change the way of asking. Mrs. Li, do you want to help your husband? Li Shiyu looked at Mu Zi for a long time, then nodded, I want to help him. I want you to testify against him and tell the judge and jury that he will not kill. Li Shiyu was in a dilemma. Will they believe my words? Whether they believe it or not, someone needs to say these words. Mu Zi sighed softly, Mrs. Li, only you can help him now. Li Shiyu gently stroked her swollen belly, and did not speak for a long time. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1255. Finally, on the 16th day, Mu Zi persuaded Li Shiyu to testify in court. On the 15th day, Zhang Ci brought the information of the police officer in charge of the case, and there was indeed a loophole to exploit. After it was confirmed that Ge Feng was a major suspect, the police's investigation of other suspects was very limited. In fact, it is also human nature. When all the evidence points to one person and attracts most of the attention, then the police will naturally pay less attention to other people. The police didn't conduct an in-depth investigation on the security of the community or the neighbors nearby, which just gave Musi a chance. On the 14th day, Chu Mingjun appealed to the Supreme Court on the grounds that there were major omissions in the prosecution's work. At the same time, their investigation of the chat group also yielded results. After the chat group Rose Covenant was disbanded half a year ago, some group members gathered again and rebuilt a chat group called Hello Rose. The new chat groups are still heavily pornographic, and even darker and more erotic. When they tentatively mentioned Hiya's nickname in the chat group, many people in the group knew her. Those people ostentatiously told how they had met Hiya, had sex with him, and played various tricks. Of course, Hiya also had a lot of online communication with these men. During the chat, one of the men directly said, "I love you, I will kill you, I will eat you," and so on. These were not investigated by the police at the time. Or, it was difficult for the police to find out, because the chat group was disbanded almost immediately, and the members in the group kept silent for fear of getting burned. The police captured the biggest suspect, so naturally they didn't have the patience to screen more than 200 people in the group one by one. Now that the case has passed for more than half a year, those people just think that the dust has settled, and they have no scruples to use the past as spoils of war to show off to other people in the group. Musi didn't need to accuse these people of suspicion, he just needed to let the judge and jury feel that the case was suspicious, which would win Ge Feng's life. On the 9th day, Chu Mingjun's appeal was accepted by the court, and a pre-trial conference was arranged for the next day. In the office, Yu Yang was flipping through files and preparing for court. Suddenly someone opened the door and broke in. Yu Yang, Guo Chang shouted loudly, walked to Yu Yang's desk in a few steps, and threw a stack of documents in his hand in front of Yu Yang. Yu Yang looked at the document in front of him, and raised his eyebrows slightly. "What do you mean?" The other party was full of anger and swearing directly. At this time, other colleagues chased in from outside the door and grabbed him. "Guo Chang. This matter is not about Yang. Why is it none of his business? Do you think others are fools?" Guo Chang said angrily. "This case has already been closed. The prisoner is about to be executed. At this juncture, he has come to me like this and needs to be retrialed. Are you trying to make me unhappy?" Yu Yang's face was as sinking as water, and he didn't speak. Colleagues were afraid that Guo Chang would cause trouble, so they persuaded him, "It's Ge Feng's lawyer who wants to reverse the case for him. It's really not Yang's fault." "Don't blame him," Guo Chang snorted coldly, looking at Yu Yang fiercely. "It's just a coincidence that he found out that this case was related to Black Rose, and then someone reversed Ge Feng's case." Guo Chang put his hands on the desk and stared at Yang. "If you want to investigate the Black Rose for meritorious service, you can do whatever you want, but don't touch my case. Do you think I don't know? You want to use this case to thoroughly investigate the Black Rose case, right? Yu Yang, listen to me, I won't let you let that bastard go. Never." Putting down the cruel words, Guo Changge left with a sullen face, and the colleagues beside him were in a dilemma. Don't take it to heart, Guo Chang's recent tasks are relatively heavy, and his previous cases will be brought up for retrial, and he must be unhappy. Yu Yang's expression was serious. Another colleague came in from outside. "Yu Yang, the chief prosecutor is looking for you. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1256. Yu Yang went to the Attorney General's office. The chief prosecutor asked him, "Does the retrial of Guo Chang's case have anything to do with you?" Yu Yang was silent for a moment, then said, "I introduced him to a lawyer." The chief prosecutor laughed. "You introduced him to Sidu Music, the president's daughter." Yu Yang frowned. the court will retry the case because there are indeed doubts in this case, not because the other party is situ music. The chief prosecutor sighed. He understood his subordinate's strict character, so he couldn't say anything clearly, but he could only hint, situ music is very provocative in court. Once this case is really tried by her, will that mean anything? The chief prosecutor pushed a photo on the table in front of Yu Yang. It was the appearance of He's tragic death. A young girl died. She has parents and friends. Her relatives have finally come out of grief. But now, the vicious gangster may be acquitted because of this, and her family will cast a shadow again. The chief prosecutor paused, then continued, the public will also have doubts about our prosecutor's ability to work. If Musa said this, it might cause some guilt and psychological uneasiness, but Yu Yang would not. Yu Yang is absolutely rational, even cold-blooded. He said, you taught us before that criminal justice has two goals: first, never let a bad person go; second, never wrong a good person. When these two goals conflict, we must give priority to the second goal at the expense of the first goal. The presumption of innocence is the basic concept of the modern rule of law. Even if Ge Feng is acquitted, it is because of doubts in the case. Even if the possibility of innocence is only 1%, we cannot ignore this 1% possibility and judge he is guilty. The chief prosecutor was choked, and said earnestly, we really shouldn't ignore the 1% possibility, but we must also pay attention to the remaining 99% possibility. The case Guo Chang is in charge of, the chain of evidence is complete, and it should not be retried anyway. Yu Yang said, I think it is more important to strictly implement each step and realize procedural justice than to blindly pursue substantive justice. The subordinate's honesty made the chief prosecutor a headache, rubbed his temples, and said, okay, go get busy. Yes. Yu Yang turned and left. Back in the office, several colleagues went to a meeting, and he was the only one left in the office. Yu Yang sat at his desk, pondered for a moment, and called up Ge Feng's personal information on the computer. In 9 days, the court will execute Ge Feng by lethal injection. Can you make it? He sighed slightly, and lightly stroked the small ornament on the key ring with his fingers. When he came back to his senses, he found a sunny doll in his hand. Sunshine doll has a cute smiling face, and the name of the Japanese grocery store is embellished on the hem. Eating dinner alone does not seem to have more appetite than watching other people go on a blind date. Yu Yang thought for a while, took out his mobile phone, and dialed Zhuangjia's number. The phone rang twice. Yu Yang asked, blind date at night? Zhuangjia, huh? After the court accepted the appeal case, Muzi immediately went to the prison to meet Ge Feng. She handed the materials to Ge Feng and said, tomorrow, the pre-trial motion will be made, and the trial will usually be arranged 3 to 7 days after the motion. You should prepare in the next few days, and I will let you testify in court. Ge Feng nodded and read the materials carefully. He lowered his head and flipped through the pages with a meticulous expression, his fingertips trembling slightly, as if holding his last hope. Muzi looked at his appearance and said in a low voice, although the court accepted our appeal, the situation is still very unfavorable. After the motion, if there is still no evidence that can help you, I will consider it and do something wrong for you. The defense of homicide, I hope you can accept it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1257. Ge Feng was stunned, his flipping movements froze, and he didn't move for a long time. Muzi looked at him quietly, waiting for a response. Manslaughter. Ge Feng raised his head slowly and asked her, is it still a death sentence? If you are convicted of the crime, you may be sentenced to 20 years in prison, Muzi I replied. After a slight pause, she continued, of course, the opposing prosecutor will not easily let us change the charges. I will fight for the defense of innocence, but, Ge Feng, sometimes we have to make some concessions in order to be safer. I understand. Ge Feng smiled wryly, I understand that you are doing it for my own good. It is better to spend 20 years in prison than to lose your life. Muzi I pursed her lips, non-committal. Both fell silent. After a while, Ge Feng asked, have you ever looked for my wife? Yes, she has agreed to testify for you. How is she, recently? It seems to be about to give birth. Muzi I smiled lightly, when I went to see her, her belly was already big, but I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. Really, that's great. Ge Feng also showed a little smile on his face. After another silence, Ge Feng asked Muzi I hesitantly, has she married again? Muzi I was slightly stunned, and replied, no. After speaking, he became suspicious again, frowned and asked Ge Feng, why do you think so? She is so beautiful. If I die, she will always remarry. Ge Feng pulled the corners of his mouth, smiling vaguely, if I die, someone will marry my wife and raise my children, it will be a matter of time. Yes, if Ge Feng is dead, Li Shiyu is still young, and her life is still very long. Muzi I finished meeting with Ge Feng and left the prison. She sat in the car and looked at the shadows of the trees receding outside the car window, feeling a strange feeling in her heart. Turning to look behind, the distance from the prison was getting farther and farther. Ge Feng was imprisoned there, and if he lost the case, his life would be ended. Muzi I's heart beat suddenly a little anxious. She took out her mobile phone and called Chu Mingjun. Now let Xiao Chen and Xiao Zhang put down all their work and go to investigate Li Shiyu's private life with all their strength. I suspect Li Shiyu is having an affair. Chu Mingjun was stunned, what's the matter with this couple? The husband is looking for excitement on the internet, and the wife has people outside. Muzi I said, Li Shiyu has been pregnant for more than 8 months. Normal people would not suspect a pregnant woman, but just now Ge Feng asked me if she was married, which means that Ge Feng has suspected Li Shiyu for a long time. Maybe there is no evidence for this suspicion, but, if Li Shiyu really had an affair, then everything makes sense. As long as through Li Shiyu, you can know the password of the house, you can know Ge Feng's drinking habits at night, you can easily find the car keys, hide the body in, and frame it. Once this person is found, the case will be completely cleared up. Chu Mingjun led the lawyers in the law firm to search for clues. Here, the pre-trial motion arrived as scheduled. In court, Muzi I said, the security guard was the first witness who discovered the body, but the documents did not provide any relevant information. Why didn't the prosecution consider the suspicion of the security guard committing the crime? Also in the chat group, there was a man who clearly accused the deceased. He said that he wanted to kill her, and he also knew about the ambiguous relationship between He and Ge Feng, and it was entirely possible to follow and kill He, but none of this was reflected in the document. Guo Chang, who was in charge of the case, replied, Your Honor, the police have investigated these people, and they have not entered the file because they have no clues. It's not that there are no clues, but after the chat group disbanded, the police didn't continue to pursue it and easily gave up on this clue. It is routine work for the police to exclude irrelevant information, Guo Chang said. Information that has not been submitted to the prosecutor's office will not be used as evidence for investigation. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1258. Muzi I said coldly, I don't think it's irrelevant information for a man to threaten a woman to kill her. He has threatened hundreds of women, Guo Chang replied blankly, it's just a fun game for sensuality. But now He is dead, just after being threatened by him. Yes, he died in the trunk of your client, so we arrested your client and sentenced him to death. Guo Chang looked at Mu Ziyi with deep eyes. Perhaps letting the criminal go will give you a sense of accomplishment, but in my case don't think about it here. Mu Ziyi gave him a cold look and refused to respond. She looked at the judge before and said word by word, Your Honor, I think there are major loopholes in the procedural work of the prosecution in this case. Considering that the death penalty is the most serious an allegation, and I hope my client will receive a fair, open, and impartial trial. The judge's eyes fell on the two of them respectively. The trial will begin next Tuesday. Coming out of the court, Chu Mingjun got into the car with Mu Ziyi. What happened to the prosecutor just now? It's like eating explosives, as if he has a grudge against us. Chu Mingjun couldn't help complaining. As Mu Ziyi's deputy, Chu Mingjun and Mu Ziyi attended the pre-trial motion together. Don't worry about him, Mu Ziyi said. How is Li Shiyu's investigation going? Chu Mingjun shook his head, and said in embarrassment, Li Shiyu has been a good girl since she was a child, not to mention having affairs, she even has almost zero love experience. Mu Ziyi sighed silently. As soon as possible, we must come up with a definite plan before the trial next Tuesday. A lawyer's defense is not just nonsense, but requires a precise plan. If it is a defense of innocence, it is necessary to try to prove that the defendant was not present at the time of the crime. If there is no alibi, other doubtful points in the case must be emphasized to make the jury have reasonable doubts. If it is a guilty defense, it is necessary to find ways to prove accidents, negligence and other factors to help the defendant reduce the criminal law. But what Mu Ziyi is facing now is a mess. She couldn't prove that Ji Feng was not there at the time, and the doubts she raised lack strength in the face of absolute evidence. Now she pinned her hopes on Li Shiyu, hoping to dig out valuable clues from this woman. A few days passed in a flash. Time passed quickly. Muse's people almost searched all possible directions, but still found nothing. On Monday night, everyone gathered in the living room. Some people are rummaging through previous materials, hoping to gain new discoveries from them. Some people tapped in front of the computer, searching for vague clues. Ji Feng, He Ya, Li Shiyu, the security guard of Feng Tinjiayuan, the police officer in charge of the case, the obscene man in the chat group, etc. The photos of everyone related to the case are displayed on the projection screen, including their imaginary, Li Shiyu's affair partner. I think security is very suspicious. If I were a security guard and saw blood dripping from the rear compartment of a certain owner, I would think that the other party had a dead dog in the rear compartment. Who would think of a corpse? Chu Mingjun said again. He Ya came to the villa at 10 o'clock in the evening. The security guards got excited and found a companion to change shifts, and then followed He Ya. But how did the security guard know the door code of Ji Feng's house? The lawyer beside him questioned. If there is no code, entering the house will trigger an alarm. Maybe he didn't enter the house at all. He attacked He Ya in front of the villa. Ji Feng opened the door and found He Ya passed out at the door of the house. Because of guilty conscience, he hid in his back compartment. When carrying the body, he touched the ring, so leave fingerprints. It doesn't make sense. If that's the case, there will be a lot of blood in front of the villa, and the murder weapon is Ji Feng's razor. The security guards can't get it at all.